Welcome to the PBC Living Podcast. My name is Jamin. I'm your first friend in South Florida. Luckily for you, I'm also a real estate agent here in the Palm Beach County area. On this podcast, we talk about what it's actually like living in Palm Beach County from the perspective of people who do actually live here. Before we jump into today, just wanted to remind you folks, it does help out quite a bit with the channel if you like and subscribe, because that definitely does let YouTube know that people are getting value in this. So if that describes you, please make sure you go ahead and do that. Without further ado, though, we are going to be jumping into our interview with Adam today with Belmonte Building and talking about kind of the building, construction here in the area, just a little bit about what it's like living here, and I'm sure we'll jump into a bunch of other stuff as well. So, Adam, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, man, 100%. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So let's get started with this. How long have you lived in Florida?
Yeah, so I moved down here when I was 6. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. My dad ended up getting a job offer down here when I was a little kid. So I'm Canadian by birth, and I'll always have a little bit of the maple leaf running through me, I guess. But I consider South Florida my home, especially the West Palm area. It's really it's been amazing. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Yeah. Do you remember like first impressions of like Florida and all that when you guys got down here? Because that's Toronto to like West Palm Beach area, Palm Beach County. That's quite an adjustment. So what was that like?
Yeah, definitely an adjustment. I think it was more so for my parents than for me, obviously. I still remember some stuff from up there, but for me, the first thing that I really remember, to be honest with you, is I remember the grass being different. Like up there, you have like that shorter, kind of more fluffy grass. Here, it's like that sawgrass. So I remember just kind of rolling around in it for the first time when I was a kid, and I just got really itchy. So that was my first impression. But other than that, it's just been great with the weather. The people here are fantastic, and I mean, since I moved down here, it's absolutely exploded. South Florida, it's a completely different place than what it was back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what ways has it changed?
I would really say it's the development, especially of that West Palm Beach area. You got Stephen Ross with the Related Group. Mm-hmm. He was the first one that he was one of the first ones that kind of came in to West Palm and really took it from a small city and kind of grew it. It's West Palm's still kind of relatively small city, but from what it was back in the day to what it is now, I mean, you've got the rebuilding of City Place. You have Italy is there now, which is like a huge staple of the community there. You also have got a whole bunch of different condo buildings that have gone up, drawn a lot of people to South Florida, and then of course Palm Beach Island, which is kind of the staple over there, and kind of really took off when Trump came to office in 2016. A lot of eyeballs on Mar-a-Lago, a lot of eyeballs on West Palm, a lot of eyeballs on Palm Beach Island in general. So you kind of saw a huge kind of uptick. I would say that was the first real uptick of population growth and development in West Palm, was that 2016, 2017 time period when Trump first came to office. So that's kind of the way that I perceived it, at least.
Yeah. That's really something that's unique about the Palm Beach County area. You've just got, obviously all the normal reasons people would move to Florida, but then you also have the access and proximity to, celebrities, and then people like in actual power, like the Trumps and everyone else here in the area. So
yeah, no, it's insane. I mean, Palm Beach Island's always been a place for celebrity and people of power, right? Like JFK, the Kennedys and JFK. I don't know if they still have it, but they had a huge compound on Palm Beach Island. You just got a bunch of people over there that, are wealthy, powerful, and again, that's kind of the glitz and glamour of it. You would kind of say that that's kind of what people focus on. But in my opinion, I really like the West Palm Beach to Jupiter area the most out of anywhere in Palm Beach County and in South Florida in general, and I would just say in the United States in general. I just think that pocket of West Palm Beach to Jupiter, Tequesta area is just super special, man. It's the way of life, just the people, the beaches, the ability to just, the restaurants down here have really stepped their game up. The food here is now great. It wasn't that great before. It's great now. Trust me, it's great now. But yeah, there's just so much. There's so much that's happening here, and I couldn't be luckier to be in a better place. In this place. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear then.
Yeah.
So how would you kind of describe the different cultures of these different communities within the Palm Beach County? Because I think it's like 39 separate towns and towns, cities, villages, whatever that means, like throughout Palm Beach County. So there's just a plethora of different places. Can you talk maybe a little bit about kind of the different flavors between these different communities?
Yeah, obviously we start with Jupiter. I feel like Jupiter is kind of a little bit more white collar. I feel like Jupiter is a little bit more upper echelon in a certain sense. Again, we were talking earlier about golf, absolutely massive golf community up here. Palm Beach Gardens, Jupiter area. The Cognizant Classic was last weekend, and golf is a real staple of this area of the county. I mean, it's staple everywhere, but especially in this part of the county, I feel like you've got so many elite level golf courses in this area. So that's kind of the vibe up here. I would say West Palm is kind of your city where now you have a lot of young professionals moving. A lot of these big banks from New York and corporations from New York City are coming down here and starting to build offices out here. So you have a lot of young professionals in West Palm. It's becoming younger, although West Palm does have its areas where you have people who want to raise a family and have a kid, and go that route and do that stuff. So it caters to them. And then as you move further south, you got Delray Beach and Boca. And again, you kind of got FAU and Boca. So again, you have that pocket of younger kids, but Boca, I would say, is more of a suburban area where you have just a lot of families and a lot of people. There's Meisner Park in that area over there, so there's stuff to do as well. But I would say Boca's a lot of suburb, and there's a bunch of stuff to do there as well. And then Delray, I would say Delray's making a lot of progress. It's come a very long way from where it was 10, 15 years ago.
Where was it 10, 15 years ago?
It was just underdeveloped. Like Atlantic Ave is the main strip in Delray Beach, and now when you go down Atlantic Ave, even on a Monday, I was there on a Monday a couple weeks ago with a bunch of buddies of mine, grabbing dinner, and it was packed, man. Like it was for a Monday night, it was slammed, Obviously it wasn't a Saturday night or Sunday night, but for a Monday night, I've never seen Delray like that. Like some of these bars were packed out, restaurants were packed out. It's hard to get a reservation there for a decent spot in Delray on a Monday night. Granted we're in season now and everything, but Delray's really come a long way with just like the development and just people moving to the city.
Right.
A lot of kids from New York and like Connecticut, Mass, kind of the New England, New York area come to FAU to go to school, kind of escape the cold. And a lot of those kids kind of love their life in South Florida and they want to stay. So Delray's a great option for them to move. There's a lot of jobs in Delray. There's a lot of people in Delray. It's a younger crowd. So I feel like, a lot of those kids, that go to the local colleges and stuff from up north, they either move south to Fort Lauderdale or they move, or Miami in some cases, or, even some of them want to stay local in the Palm Beach County area, move to Delray or West Palm. So
Gotcha. I mean, there also seems to be a pretty tight clustering concentration of kind of that northeastern crowd around like Boca Raton as well. So there's definitely... There's a long history of people from the Northeast coming down to South Florida. Yeah. Because, I think that was even like, Flagler and like the original, like, people that actually settled in the kind of that South Florida area. I mean, most of them were from the Northeast. So it's kind of funny to see that legacy still continuing.
Oh, it's still the exact same appeal. It's flourishing, man. People, if you're listening from New York, I know it's just supposed to podcast if you want to move on to South Florida, but, I'm not saying we're full, but
Well, let's talk about that a little bit then, because you had the experience of having lived in Florida and then moved to, I think it was New York.
Yeah, I moved to New York for a couple years. Yeah,
moved to New York for a couple of years. So you kind of have that perspective of kind of moving back. So after having lived in both places, either one of them is going to have pros and cons.
Yeah.
So what are the give and takes there?
Yeah, so I worked for a big commercial construction company in New York City, and I lived in Manhattan for a couple of years, in like the Midtown East Kips Bay area. And I said this to you before, and I'm going to say it again. I think New York City is the best city in the world. I've traveled, Europe, South America. I haven't been to Asia yet, so I can't speak on that. But just from the Western countries that I've been to, I think New York City is the best city in the world. I think, although it has its many faults, don't get me wrong, it has its many faults, right? Crime, homelessness, the streets are dirty sometimes, like whatever you want to call it. That, like, although those are a part of the city, I feel like when it comes to meeting people when you're young, in your early 20s, meeting people when you're young, getting really good work experience. The food there is unbelievable. The nightlife there is unbelievable. And just what you can do, not only in Manhattan, but in Brooklyn, if you go north of the Bronx, if, you want to go into New Jersey, Jersey City, those areas, Queens is remarkable. Like, just the culture in Queens is remarkable. But I live in South Florida now, and I felt like I needed to get back here in order to kind of start the business that I started and just kind of be closer to my network that I had just built growing up here, which is why I came back. But, I still, like I said, I'll say it forever. I think New York City is the best city in the world. And, I think, South Florida is absolutely amazing. I would recommend, if you're 21, 22, 23 years old, you just graduated college, move to New York City and have a ball. Like, I know it's expensive. I know all of that stuff. I know. But take your early years. You can make your money back. You can live at home as long as you want, move back to your hometown whenever you want. But when you're young in your 20s, I would move to New York City in a heartbeat. It's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. So what's the draw? Because, a lot of people from New York, they do end up coming down here to kind of the South Florida. So you've had that perspective of having lived in the wild with those people.
Yeah.
And talked to them a little bit.
100%.
For them, what's the appeal of South Florida? Because I don't really see, people from New York, the Northeast, like consistently going as a group to like other parts of the country. Well, maybe Texas, but really it's like South Florida is kind of the stereotype. So.
Yeah. I would say that, first of all, I think your friends, especially when you get older, people are moving to South Florida in retirement. Your friends are a big thing, right? Like, you want to be around your friends. And when you're in New York, you normally know people who have a house in South Florida, or know an uncle or an aunt or a grandmother or someone like that lives in South Florida. So I think networking who people obviously have been coming here for years. So people know other people who have residences in South Florida. So that's a big draw, first off. Second off, I would say the weather. Like in New York, they just got a blizzard like 2 weeks ago in New York City. It was a cold and snowy winter this year. So the weather's another thing. And then the third thing I would obviously say is the taxes. Like when you live in New York City, or when you live in Connecticut, or when you live in even upstate New York, or, Westchester County, or wherever you want to live, New Jersey, you're paying state income tax. And if you live in New York City, you're paying city tax. So you're dealing with if you're making, a median income, your income is just, your dollars go a lot further down here. They have traditionally gone a lot further down here. I think now cost of living here has gone up a little bit. But I would just say in general, your dollar goes further down here. So that's definitely an appeal.
Yeah. And there's definitely, there's going to be an element of getting nickel and dimed everywhere, but at least in Florida, like, there's a really conscious effort to like keep taxes and a lot of those expenses like as low as you can. Cause a lot of people in New York will tell you that'll eat you alive. And the difference is you can't just not pay them or make a lifestyle change and just decide, hey, I'm not going to eat out as much. Like, you can't say, well, I'm just going to pay less taxes. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. And especially in with the way that the tax structure is set up, the tax structure is designed to tax people who are high earners, let's just say. So these are people who maybe work at an investment bank, right? Or people who work at like a high-end real estate investment company. These are the guys who are getting issued W-2s. So they're filing W-2 income, but they're also making $1 million plus a year, right? So, when you're getting issued W-2 income, you're getting hit for all the taxes. Like all the taxes you're getting hit with, as opposed to if you were to start a business, there's the tax laws are a little bit more forgiving for people who own businesses. So it makes things a little bit easier to skate by. It kind of makes things a little bit easier to manage when you do run your own business, but you kind of face the inevitable challenge of actually having a successful business, which is extremely hard to do. So. Especially in New York City. So that's definitely like a huge thing too. I just think the tax system, especially up there, is really geared towards those people who, maybe don't own their own business, but they make a very high salary. So I think that's like a distinction too that has to be made.
Gotcha.
From a tax perspective.
Yeah, no, that 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
So, folks are moving down here then. They're kind of settling in. We're seeing, kind of an explosion in the population. And with that, like a lot of the opportunities, from, I feel like what you've seen in years past in this area as well. Have you seen that like starting to have an impact on the character and the nature of kind of the area and specific towns themselves? Or is it just... I don't know, is it just West Palm Beach or Jupiter just with more people, or is the character of the town itself changing?
I wouldn't say, it's changing dramatically, I think that people move to South Florida a lot of the times for political reasons as well. However you may lean, in South Florida, like we're just a red state, we're a conservative state, and a lot of people from up north sometimes love those values. Other people don't like those values, but they're here for the tax incentives and they're here for the weather, for example, right?
Right.
And I think although politics can get really hairy, I think it's definitely a factor of why people move here, is because of that political atmosphere, and that really plays into the culture as well. Like you have people who are just a little bit more, they have a little bit more conservative values. So that kind of plays into like the culture of South Florida as well. As I think that, although Palm Beach County notoriously, goes blue, I still think you have a really good mix of people who kind of balance the equation out on both sides, where you get a good mix of both sides of, the political aisle. It's not, where you live in a Portland, Oregon, for example, and, it's all one side. It's kind of a real mix of both, is what you find.
Yeah, which, something really to be said for that, because it does kind of keep politicians and the statesmen a little bit more honest. If there's a little bit more of a balance of, kind of back and forth there.
Yeah, you'd think so, right? But
yeah, you would think so.
You'd think so. You'd think so, but that's a different conversation for a different day, I guess.
Yeah, I'll get a politician on here sometime. We'll chat then.
Yeah, bring me on. I'd love to ask some questions.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to take just a little bit of a break here real quick.
Okay.
For those of you who have been watching for a bit, you do know that I have a relocation guide for those of you considering making the move down here to South Florida. If that's something you'd like to get your hands on, do make sure you just go to the website. Link for that is in the description section down below. Just scroll down, put your information in there, put Florida Relocation Guide so I know what to send you, and we'll get that over to you. But let's go and finish up today's interview, talking a little bit more specifically about how Florida houses and construction are a little bit different than some other places. Like, what are some demands you have on Florida houses that you just don't have in other places?
The main thing that I would say, like for Florida construction and construction up north, at least from a larger scale, I guess, is the quality of the contractors and the quality of, as a general contractor myself, the quality of subcontractors. In the city, in New York, up north, even in Toronto, Boston, just up north primarily, the unions are so dominant for whatever trade you're looking at, whether it's block, whether it's electrical work, plumbing work, whatever it is. The trades are so dominant, so you kind of have a real pipeline of skilled American workers who are being paid their fair wage that want to do this work, and they want to make a living, and they want to become a master in their trade. In South Florida, we don't really have that. So it's a lot of guys who might be immigrants to this country, or they might be guys who might not have all the experience in the world, but they're telling you they have all the experience in the world. And that can really put a damper on the execution of the work. And you kind of see this in a large scale with these large track builders, right? Like your D.R. Hortons, your Kencos, your GL Homes, these large scale builders, I find, and a lot of my clients find in these new homes, that the quality really suffers. And that could be from a management standpoint, where you have the builder, they just either don't pay attention, or they just want to get the home sold as quick as possible, or whatever the case may be. But I do think that, your subcontractor pool definitely plays a role in it, and that the quality of labor that you have down here definitely plays a role in it. And it's definitely, like, as a younger contractor myself, it's been a big roadblock, or a bigger roadblock than I was anticipating, getting things moving down here.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an issue there.
100%.
What are some signs, I guess, people can look out for when they're trying to avoid a situation where they're afraid of people like cutting corners? Like, what can they do what are some things they can look out for? Like, if I'm a consumer and I'm trying to decide, like, I've got like 5 guys I can work with, they all sound exactly the same thing, they've got about the same dadgum bid and all that, I have no clue, like, which one is which here. Like, for you, what would be some things you would be looking at to try to kind of sift out, like, who's quality and who's talking a big game? Yeah,
a couple things there. One of them I would say is, and I as a contractor, I don't get asked this enough, and if I was a consumer, I would ask for this, but I would ask to see, like, a portfolio of work based on what you want to get done, right? So if you're looking at a kitchen remodel, like, what kitchens have you done before, right? And more so than that, provide a reference, right? So if you said that, if I told a client that I did your kitchen, if I was a consumer, I would ask for your number, your contact information, and I would contact you directly, and I'd say, hey, you worked with Adam on your kitchen remodel. I saw the pictures of it. Looks great. How was your experience? If you said, well, my experience was really good with them, I really enjoyed working with them, so on and so forth, great. You're kind of vetted in a certain sense. That's the first thing I would do if I was a consumer. The second thing that I would do is I'd pay really, really close attention to communication, and communication, especially at the start of the job, before the job even begins. So during the bid process, during the selection process, during the design process, if the contractor isn't communicating with you efficiently, if the contractor isn't responsive to you, that's usually a red flag. It would be a red flag in my book, because if the communication isn't good before you've cut them a check, the communication is just going to get worse from there.
Yeah,
right.
It's not going to get better.
not going to get better. Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's really huge. How exactly are Florida houses like different than what you might find somewhere else? Like for instance, up north you might have like a lot of snow, so crawl spaces are a really big deal because they're trying to keep the moisture down. Some places on the Ring of Fire, they might be building specifically for like earthquakes, so houses can't be as rigid. They've got to have that ability to kind of sway a little bit. How would you say like the houses and construction is different here in Florida?
Yeah, well, Florida's got, if not the strictest, one of the strictest building codes in the country.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There's like this weird perception that it's just the Wild West.
Nope.
And just anything goes.
Nope. When it comes to building with the city, it's especially happened after Surfside collapsed, I think in 2019 or 2020 in Miami Beach.
Right.
Or in Aventura.
Real quick. Why don't you go ahead and just explain what that was for the people that are just tuning into that?
Yeah. So there was in Surfside in like North Miami Beach area, there was I believe it was a condo building that collapsed. It was on the water, and it was an older building. And what happens is because the building is subjected to
Salt
the ocean
water,
the ocean salt water. The salt water corrodes a lot of the rebar inside of the concrete, and it corrodes the concrete in general because concrete is porous, right? So what ended up happening was the structure of the building got to a point where, first of all, there wasn't any inspections done to the like progressive inspections done to the structure of the building, and the building collapsed. And I think it killed a couple people, and it, obviously destroyed people's homes and stuff. And after that was kind of a huge turning point where, Florida really put some legislation in place for building contractors to a point where the red tape now is almost too constrictive, I would say. Where every single part of the building process, for good reason, has to be looked at by the city, by an inspector. Yeah. Obviously, there's third-party inspectors that you can hire, and they work with the city as well. So that's just kind of a different ballgame. But that was kind of a massive turning point. And in turn, a lot of these structural restoration companies. I have a mentor of mine who is a COO of a structural restoration company down in Fort Lauderdale, and they stay busy, man. They stay busy because you have a lot of these buildings that were built in the 80s, that were built in the 90s, that need this structural upkeep, and they need these tests done because it's now law. Yeah. And it's very profitable for contractors, obviously, because this work needs to be done, but it's also super beneficial for the people who are living in these condo buildings because you don't want your condo to collapse on your head. So
yeah. And I mean, here's the thing too. Sometimes it's not even like the builder in the 80s did anything wrong.
Correct.
Like they just built to the standard of their day, and the environment kind of deteriorates.
Correct.
On everything. I mean, also like the Surfside, what you were talking about too, an added element I don't think they were planning for is there were like 80 units. It was like 8 stories tall. All of the people in there, like over the years, started like changing out, remodeling all of their units. And so suddenly it's got like,
added weight, added pressure.
Much added weight.
Yep.
Everyone's using tile, solid surface counters, and that's just stuff that's just couldn't really factor in at the time. So.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a big deal. But kind of to get back to the original question of the building standards here and how it's kind of different. The homes in South Florida, the new homes that are getting built, or just any home in South Florida, really is it's all concrete and steel. That's really what it is. I mean, you might have some interior framing that's wood studs, like that happens from time to time, and obviously you have like your wood trusses and stuff. But for the most part, the structure of your building is concrete and steel. It's concrete and rebar, and that provides, a lot of security for the homeowner. Yeah. Like it doesn't get any better than that in terms of security. Now, also something that's, almost, I would say, mandatory now for new builds. I believe it might be mandatory. I could be wrong, but is hurricane impact windows, right? This is another thing where you have, a lot of window companies in South Florida are kind of loving their lives now because, again, back in the day, you had buildings and houses that were built in the early 2000s, built in the 90s, that used regular windows, and obviously you had like all of those like metal shutters, and like as a kid, like you'd go around and put up metal shutters for people at their homes. Well, that's kind of like non-existent now because a lot of these people have switched out their windows and their sliding glass doors to hurricane impact glass.
Yeah. Now, is the only difference between regular glass and a hurricane glass, is it just the thickness, or is it materially something different as well?
I mean, it's both. It's both, but it's normally material. Like this glass is the glass that they install it's engineered for just higher wind load calculations. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely been in houses before with hurricane force winds when they were not hurricane force.
Yeah.
It's trippy because like the pressure of the house is like changing. The windows are like bowing in. You can like feel the pressure on your ears. So yeah, wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, no, it can. I mean, listen, like it's also, I've been here for several hurricanes and they're never as big of a deal as people want to make them out to be. But what I would say is it also protects you from, debris that flies around too, like you got hurricane winds that are ripping at 70, 80 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, a tree branch gets loose and it flies through your window. And it's no bueno. You know what I mean? It's not a good time. So that's also another reason for hurricane impact glass too, but the wind for sure is one of the main issues and a huge reason for that.
Yeah. So as a contractor, just knowing everything that you know, if you're walking into a house and you're deciding, hey, am I going to buy this? Am I not going to buy this? Like, what would you say are, we'll say like top 3 things that you're going to want to go check out just to make sure it's good to go and there's no skeletons in the closet?
Yeah, I mean, that's really a subjective question. I mean,
100%. So.
Yeah, really subjective question. Like, it kind of just depends on what your budget is like and what, you're looking for. If you're just looking for a place that's going to provide you shelter, you obviously want to make sure that the plumbing systems, the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, and the roof, the most important parts, the functionality and the utility of your home is obviously in good shape. Especially the air conditioning and HVAC systems, like that's, the whole reason why we can exist here is because of that, right? But also, you have people in higher income brackets that are looking at, primarily finished work, and the roof and the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems are all kind of a given.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay, I just expect that to be up to date and in place. Now let me look at the finishes. Like, what kind of countertop did you use? What material is your countertop? What upgrades have you done to the home previously? If it's someone that previously owned the home, and like depending on, again, if you want to move into the even higher tax bracket and the even higher end homes, people looking for how square and plumb are your walls. What level finishes the drywall. When you did the interior finish work, was all of the trim done properly, and are there any gaps in the baseboard? Or just little things. It's really just a matter of what your priorities are. But I would definitely say make sure that your plumbing, mechanical, electrical systems are up to date and in place. That if there's any outdated air handling units or whatever, outdated roof, I would definitely check into that. A huge thing for these older homes too in South Florida now is your attic insulation. If it's at an older home and it hasn't been replaced in 20, 30 years, it could be a fire risk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. So it could, it's, again, nowadays it's all spray foam insulation, so there's not really a concern, worry about that. But a lot of the time it's just blow in matte insulation that they used back in the day, and that was it was acceptable, and people weren't thinking about, 20, 30 years on the line, if, something happens, is this going to be a fire risk? Like that just wasn't the standard. So.
Right. Man, that's wild.
Yeah.
With the insulation up in the attic, okay, first off, like I think it's like the soffits or the baffles, like I think it's called the baffles, if I recall correctly, on the eaves. Are there issues you've noticed where wind will actually get up in there and just throw the insulation all over the place? Because, I mean, maybe not, but in some places I know that's definitely an issue.
No, I mean, that doesn't really happen with the insulation. I mean, I would think that would affect the roof line a little bit more, and maybe your gutter systems. But it just really, that would just really affect your roof line, if anything.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on a little bit then.
100%.
I know like West Palm Beach, the whole Palm Beach County area, sometimes it kind of feels like we live in the shadow of Miami to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who kind of get us mixed up a little bit there. So I guess for you, like, how would you say Miami, Palm Beach County, like they're like and dislike from each other?
Personally, this is again my personal opinion. I do not like Miami that much. I think Miami, Miami's not just a city, right? It's not just Brickell. It's not just like Coconut Grove. It's not like, it's not South Beach. That's the city of Miami.
Yeah.
Right. But like Miami itself is, you got Doral, you got Hialeah, you got Kendall, you got Coral Gables, you got, even as far down as like, Homestead, even like that's kind of considered, like, I guess you consider that part of Miami too. Like you have, I mean, even if you go north, like, Aventura is different. Like Miami is, you have to think about Miami, the way that I think about it is more of like a county and less of a city. Like, because, the city of Miami is great, in that Brickell area, but it's kind of just, again, like subjective. Like, what are you into? Like in Miami, the nightlife is huge, right? Everybody thinks about Miami nightlife, right? The restaurants in Miami, phenomenal, world-class restaurants. If you like that, great. I would just say that the vibe around Miami that I've seen is not my vibe, and I feel like there are a lot of people with money in Miami. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people in Miami have a lot of money, but there are those, kind of like LA, where there's like those subsect of people who, they put holes in their exhaust and they drive their Lamborghini down, they rent a Lamborghini down, in Brickell, and it's just kind of like a flex, and you have these kind of paper tiger-esque type people where they're just there to flex on you, and like those really aren't my people. Like, I mean, kind of the same thing with the girls down there too. You kind of have that superficial kind of nature about them. Again, there are a lot of girls in Miami outside of the city maybe that like are absolutely phenomenal girls. This isn't like a blanket thing. It's just saying from my experience.
It's kind of a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing. And then also in Miami too, the biggest, I guess, one of the biggest things for me is that, if you're in the city of Miami, you can speak English and most people will converse with you in English. But I mean, if you're, again, in Kendall, Doral, Hialeah, like some of these other places around Miami, you got to know how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
That's like a prerequisite. You got to know how to speak Spanish. And I'm Italian. I don't know how to speak Spanish. I grew up here. Like, I don't really know Spanish. I mean, I know some Spanish. I know some of it just to get me around. I went to Spanish class in high school, but like, I'm not proficient by any means. So, that's very much the culture down there, is like a very like Latin rooted culture. And those people are absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best people on the planet are Cubans from Miami. Like one of my mentors and my former boss, best boss I've ever had in my life, Cuban guy from Miami. And he was the best guy ever, So it's not a testament to like the quality of the character. It's just more so of like the cultural aspect, I guess.
Yeah, no, and that's perfectly fair, So,
Yeah.
So definitely, those two areas, two completely separate environments.
100%.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, God, like flex culture, it's, I don't know. For me, you see a little bit of it here, but honestly, kind of the vibe here seems to be if you got to tell everyone that you got a lot of money, you probably don't have a lot of money. That's kind of the energy here.
Yeah, no, the energy here is the complete opposite. The energy here is I've got money and I don't want anybody to know about it.
Yeah, I don't have to prove it to you. I don't want you to know.
It's not even it's not even like I don't want to prove it to you. It's I don't want you to know.
I'm here to be normal.
Yeah, like I don't even want you to know. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like only my friends know what I got going on, and other than that, like I kind of just chill in my house and play golf and go to the country club or do whatever I need to do. And I hope nobody knows. I'm not gonna walk down Worth Avenue on Palm Beach Island in a Gucci suit. Like you're never gonna see that.
Yeah.
If you see like fashion brands, it's more of those like quiet luxury fashion brands like a Laura Piana or Brunello Cucinelli or like one of those type brands where like it's not like a facey type brand. It's like if you know type thing. So I would say it's, you know, Palm Beach, specifically Palm Beach if there's any place on the planet that I would compare it to, it'd be Monaco. I don't know if you've been to Monaco. Yeah. But it's got that Saint-Tropez, Monaco, Cannes, France. Like it's got that European-esque feel to it where, you know, people in France, like people in Monaco, for example, are very similar to people in Palm Beach, where it's kind of like a quiet, like luxury type thing, even though, you know, at times it can be super loud.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know everyone's going to be upset if I don't ask the question here.
Yeah, do it.
So, hurricanes. You know, some people, that is like one of the things they are like terrified of. You start talking to them, and I mean, I've seen people like literally start like doing this right here where they're like comforting themselves when you're talking about it. Just because just the thought of hurricanes like makes them very anxious, and that's for a lot of people one of the main reasons they decide not to make the move eventually, or at least full time. In your experience, like, well, first off, have you had a lot of experience with like hurricanes? Yeah, you've been here for a while. Yeah. So what's that been like?
They're never as bad as they seem.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listen, I've been here when, you know, Hurricane Irma was like, I forgot what year that was, man. That was like, must have been like 6-7 years ago. I don't even remember. But, you know, Hurricane Irma was like a Category 5 headed right for Palm Beach County. Like, tickets were $1,000 to get out. Everybody was, you know, up in a frenzy. The gas stations were empty. The Publixes were empty. You couldn't get any water anywhere. I mean, what happened last second? I mean, what happened was, you know, it went down to a 4 maybe, and it kind of hit us, but like,
kind of a glancing shot.
Kind of like, yeah, like it was a storm, and like maybe some people lost power, but I mean, the worst natural disaster that I've seen here happened like 2 years ago when there was a tropical storm. It might have been like a Cat 1. It was like one of those little storms that were coming through, and there were tornadoes that formed.
Okay, yeah, I think it was actually around for that one.
Yeah, there were tornadoes.
I was like, what is going on
There were tornadoes that formed, and it hit Wellington. It hit Wellington. There was one, and then there was one that hit Avenir off of North Lake and Beeline, like that neighborhood right there. Okay, Avenir is like a big complex, but a big like subdivision. But it hit like I think it hit a specific neighborhood in Avenir. And that was the worst natural disaster I've ever seen. It was a tornado. Now, if your reason for not moving here was there might be a tornado, like that, listen, you know, like a tornado is not something that you can predict, right? Like a hurricane, you can kind of see coming a little bit where you can make some preparations. If a tornado happens, it's coming for you. It's kind of just like, you know, hope you end up in Oz like Dorothy, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, you kind of got to take your blows. But even then, the damage to some of these homes, like really, I saw like there was 1 or 2 streets that I had seen in Wellington and maybe a couple houses in Avenir that got, you know, kind of beat up for sure. But it wasn't like, again, everything's built out of concrete and steel, right? So the roof was affected, and maybe, you know, some of the windows were affected if they were older homes and they didn't have the hurricane impact windows. But it really wasn't as bad as some people might have wanted to make it seem like. But that was the worst natural disaster I've seen here. The hurricanes have always just been, the media blows it out of proportion like it does with almost everything, and you know, when the day is when it actually comes around, it's kind of just like, all right, stay inside. Hopefully your electricity doesn't go out. If it does go out, you might have a generator. But even if you don't have a generator, it'll probably come back on the next couple of days anyways, or the next day anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like if your phone dies, like hopefully you have like a battery pack, or even if it does die, it's probably better for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you stay off your phone for a day. So
yeah, absolutely. So I guess for people who are still in that camp, maybe they're a little apprehensive, like they haven't done a hurricane or a natural disaster before, like, you know, would you have any tips or tricks you'd have for them to kind of get ready for it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, go to the gas station, I guess, fill your truck up, get some water.
Yeah, do all this like
but don't,
long way before.
Yeah, but don't like fill your bathtub up and
geez.
like think that like, you know, you're gonna need all that water because, you know, we're not gonna have power for like 2 weeks. Like that's not the case. So
yeah, unless we have like a hurricane and a red dawn situation, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah, we'll be fine. Like I think people blow it out of proportion.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, just a couple more questions
here.
here.
Yeah, go for it. Shoot.
If someone's kind of moving to the area and they're pretty new, what would you say are like the 3 things like you would say you've got to go do this?
Like moving to the area, like you're gonna live here full time?
Correct, yeah. Or tourists, or you know, just something you got to do while you're here. Like you can't do this anywhere else.
It depends. I think if you're somebody, like I said, I alluded to this earlier in the podcast, and this is just me, my personal bias because I play golf, but I think we have the best golf courses. Like there's a golf course out in West Palm Beach called The Park. It's off of Forest Hill and Dixie. It's a public golf course. Times are a little bit expensive, I get it, but if you're looking for a public course that's a top 100 course in the country, that's the course you got to go to. Absolutely phenomenal golf experience. Fantastic. If you're interested in golf, I would go do that. Tennis, same thing with tennis, pickleball. The public pickleball courts that we have here, tennis courts here, absolutely world class if you're into sports and doing that type of stuff. Similarly, what I would do honestly too is if you're thinking about living here full time and you got a little bit of extra income, I would consider getting a membership to a boat club where, you know, there's a couple of them in Jupiter. There's one in Jupiter, a couple of them in Jupiter. There's a couple of them in West Palm, where you pay like a certain monthly subscription. So you pay like a couple $100 a month or whatever it is, depending on which one you go to and what package you get, about a couple $100 a month. And they have all the boats there for you. And it's, you know, you're not going out on a mega yacht, but like they got some nice boats there for you where you can take it out into the intercoastal, go to Peanut Island. You can, you know, take it for a ride up the intercoastal. You can go to pull your boat up to a nice restaurant on the water and have lunch with your friends. Like, you know,
that's huge just because I don't know how many people have experience with boats. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's a lot
100%.
of work. There goes every single weekend ever.
Yeah, and if I mean, I have friends who have boats and have bought boats and stuff. Like, I think that it's a complete money sink, you know, personally. Some people really like fishing, for example, right? And that's their thing. They really love fishing. And they're willing to put the money into a boat and all the gear and take care of the maintenance and the marina fees and the gas and everything to go do their hobby, and that's great. That's amazing. If your thing similarly is, you know, you want to take your boat out into the intercoastal every single weekend with your friends and your wife or your husband, and you want to, you know, just dock it up and, you know, kind of have a couple of drinks and enjoy the sunlight, like that's great. Like, do your thing. But the way that I've felt is the most efficient way about going about it is boat club membership, and I think that is something that's super kind of slept on, I think, a little bit here. I think that's a really good way for you to, you know, if you're considering buying a boat, you know, start using your boat club membership like you would use your boat, and all you got to do is pay for the gas, and that's it. So A boat club membership would be, I think, getting on the boat. That's, really cool thing to do in South Florida, especially with all like the waterfront restaurants and stuff. Really, really cool. And I guess the third thing I would say is just like do your best to meet people. That's a huge thing because, whether you're in New York or Boston or LA or Miami or West Palm Beach or you're in Rome or you're in Paris, wherever you're at, what makes things really fun is the people that you do them with, and if you're somebody who's moving here, you really don't know anybody, I would go out of your way to make friends, and whether that's joining a country club or whether that's joining like a club of any sort, it doesn't have to be a country club, but just a club of any sort, going out of your way to meet your neighbors and join your, if there's like a community center, maybe you want something over there, like just go out of your way to meet people because, and meet as many people as you can because people here, number one, in my opinion, there's always some bad apples, but for the most part, you got some really great people here, and the more people that you meet and the more people that you make friends with, the more this place is going to feel like home and you're going to get really attached to it because, you might make friends with somebody who has been here for 20 years and they know all of the spots and they take you to all the restaurants, and now you start to get more ingrained in the community and you don't have to Yelp on your phone every 20 minutes of where to go here, where to go there. You know what I mean? You have personal references and you can go do these things with other people. So I think meeting people is a huge thing that people got to do, and it's kind of hard in this day and age with the phones and whatnot. But I think for people in the in the community of older people, they're a little bit more inclined to do that just based on their generation. So
yeah, I mean, I can definitely vouch for that. Like, I've got a little hot tub at the condo association where I live, and you just go down there, like soak for a little while, and it's always like the older crowd is just immediately like they're not even in the tub yet, but they're talking and interacting. And younger folks, you got to work a little bit to interact with them.
Yeah. No, the younger. I mean, listen, there's a lot of young people here, man. Like, there's a lot of young people here. I think, whether you're in your 20s and you're going to college, or you're just graduated from college, or you're moving into your 30s and you want to have a kid, you want to have a family. Like, there's a group, there's a bunch of people who are going through the same part of life that you're going through. You know what I mean? It's just you being able to get out there and find your crowd and find your group of people, and it's going to take some time, and you have to have some trials and errors, and you have to meet some bad apples. But at the end of the day, you kind of, life is what you make it. Everything, it doesn't matter where you live. It's it's what you make it. Yeah, no, and I mean that's huge. I've noticed that the people who move into an area, the people that are the ones that they're there for like 6 months, a year, and then they're just like, I'm out, I'm going back, I'm going back home. Yeah. And it's usually, big part of it is like that social aspect. They just, for whatever reason, really struggled to just plug in and like meet people, and they became more and more isolated. And that's like, the social aspect's really important. Like, a lot of people don't think about it, but you got to have that on, really high priority. It goes like, job, and then socializing, and then everything else kind of falls into place from there. Yeah, and you, I mean, you know this probably better than anybody. I mean, moving from Alaska, I'm sure you didn't know anybody here, down here. So, yeah, no, nothing. I had like, including people in the office, like I think there was like 2. Yeah, that I knew. Yeah, like you don't know anybody down here, and you got to go out of your way, and you got to make friends. And I think that's obviously a little bit harder to do when you're older. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, even my parents, like, my mom's a little bit more of a social person, but it, because of, me growing up and my parents just having young kids and raising kids and stuff, it was, I kind of, from my perspective at least, it was always a little bit harder for them to make friends because, like, in the beginning, because, again, their whole social network was back in Toronto, and now, everything is great. Like, my dad's got friends, and my dad's really into motorcycles, so he goes and rides, motorcycles with his friends, and my mom's got her friends, and they go to lunch together, and they do all that kind of stuff together. So, for me, I grew up here, so, I've known my circle of friends, like my really tight circle of friends since I was in high school,
Right.
or since I was 16, since I was in high school, or maybe a lot of my friends I met in college too. Like the guys that you meet in college are awesome, and they come from all over the place, right? You have kids that come from west side of Florida, east side of Florida, out of state, and some of the guys that you meet in college are just they're the best, man. They're awesome, absolutely. They're just awesome. So
Yeah, that's the crew.
yeah,
That's the crew.
Yeah.
So for people like considering making the move here then, and we'll just say, man, it's hard to narrow it down, but we'll just say kind of Palm Beach County in general. What would you say from your personal perspective are the big pros and the big cons of Palm Beach County?
Well, I would say I think we've gone over a lot of the pros. I think the lifestyle here is great. Taxes are great. The culture is great. Those are a lot of the pros. We went over a lot of the pros. But I also think that a con that I'm seeing, and this is kind of like a broad thing that, is happening everywhere, all over, I guess, the Western world, if you want to really call it that, is just housing prices. And, your spending power, will kind of decrease. It'll decrease if you're coming from like Topeka, Kansas.
Right.
If you're coming from Kansas, like your buying power is going to decrease, right? Like that is what it is. But, the housing market in some of the more desirable areas here are, exploding.
Well, even just like the Jupiter area,
Yep.
like I was just looking at the stats the other day. I think they went average sold price for a single family home was right around, I think it was like 400 to 480.
Yep.
And now it's just north of $1 million. Like is the median, not the average, I'm sorry, the median sold price for single family homes in Jupiter.
Yeah.
So
what I would say is this to that, because that's when you throw that number out there, it's kind of just like the shock, of like, $1 million, who can afford that? It's kind of like, that's kind of a shock.
But there's a lot above and below that. Though.
Yeah.
There's a lot above and below.
Yeah. Like you can listen. The good thing about South Florida and Palm Beach County is that there's still room to kind of grow, right? Like we're expanding north and we're expanding west.
Right.
Like there's constant development north, there's constant development west. Like west. Like I know in like the Hobe Sound area, a little bit north of us, like there's a lot of expansion over there. West of us, you had like Avenir go up, you had Westlake go up, which was in like Loxahatchee, kind of even. That's all the way out west. I mean, you're really out west, but I have a buddy of mine actually I have a couple buddies of mine that live in Westlake, and I live in West Palm Beach, kind of near downtown.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I got to take a flight to get over to you because it's 45 minutes on Southern Boulevard till I hit Seminole Pratt. And I always joke with them. I always joke around with them. But point being is like there's constant expansion, and that's the good thing is that, there's more supply. Like if you look at like a New York City or a Boston or a Toronto or something like that, it's the cities, the infrastructure is already built out. So like it's very hard to expand past that, right?
Yeah, and they're not going to be friendly towards like continuing to build or anything like that. So at least like South Florida is in this spot to where they can kind of build themselves out a little bit or kind of mitigate like those prices a little bit. But there are other places where it's like you're just, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in real trouble. And with South Florida, I mean, in the Jupiter area, again, depends where you go. But, if you're just, a guy in their 30s who, just got married and wants to have a kid, if you save your money correctly, maybe you get like an FHA loan, 3% down, like you can pick probably something up for 400, 500 grand. Like you could probably do that. You know what I mean? That's not feasible. Is it going to be the Taj Mahal? Like, no, you know what I mean? But is it going to be something where, you can start a family in and you can just, slowly over a couple years, you homestead the property and you put in, 50 grand worth of work over the course of the lifetime of the home and you living there, and, you turn around in 5, 6, 7 years and you sell it, and, you like all of those things are possible. So it's not like, you need $1 million cash to get into the market. It's just more of like in my opinion, like the home that my parents bought when they first moved down here was in Wellington for, $300,000, and now that home sells for $750,000, $800,000
easily.
And it's like one of those things where again, it's yes, it's the demand of housing because people are moving to South Florida. Yes, but like you also have to account for inflation. You also have to account for the economic growth of the area that's kind of unprecedented down here, as opposed to, again, if you're looking at Topeka, Kansas, for example, like $400,000 for a home in Topeka, Kansas is all the money in the world. Here, it won't get you too far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah, kind of sharing your perspective a little bit. Just real quick, I mean, we kind of mentioned you're working with the Belmonte building company and everything. Like, what's kind of y'all's specialty, and what's the best way for people to get a hold of y'all?
Yeah, so we're a fully licensed and insured general contractor. Got our CGC license. So what we're doing primarily now is we're primarily doing full scale remodels. We're doing additions. We're doing some outdoor living stuff. We're doing some interior finish work. So again, if you decide to go ahead and buy, a new kind of blank slate home from a big builder, and they sold you on what the model looked like, but you might not have the budget to go spend with the builder, you can come to us and we can help you out, put something together for you, and it'll be like 60-70% of the cost. But yeah, we're a fully licensed and insured general contractor. We help mainly clients in the Jupiter, West Palm Beach, Delray, and Boca areas. You can find us online at BelmonteBuildingCompany.com, on Instagram at Belmonte Building Co. And yeah, man, just reach out to us if you need any help.
Outstanding. Well, we'll definitely make sure to have the link to the y'all's website and everything in the description section down below.
Yeah.
If you folks have questions on projects and stuff like that you're wanting to do, certainly feel free to reach out to them, talk a little bit, make sure you guys are a good fit there, obviously. But they definitely do know what they're doing. So you should definitely reach out and at least give them a call. But yeah, that's all we got here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.